Hey guys, this is Alan here at Wise Living Yoga Academy. I'm going to talk to you a bit about compost and the importance of composting. Really, compost is wonderful for your plants. It's wonderful for growing fruits and vegetables, for growing flowers, for growing all of these wonderful things that we have in our garden. But it's not just about having nice plants, having nice looking food, having big fruit, things like that. It's about improving the quality soil. It's about giving back to the earth, giving back to the planet, taking all of these products that we normally waste, we normally throw away, and turning them back into soil. Mainstream agriculture has a tendency to take from the land. We plant something, that plant takes all of the nutrients out of the soil, then we cut it down and we take it. And then what do? We put down some chemicals and put some more plants. It grows, we take it. And what we're doing is just slowly depleting the soil worse and worse and worse over time. So what we want to do is we want to take all of the waste that we have and we want to put it back into the soil. It's all organic material. We want to put it back in. We want to add nutrients. We want to add, trace minerals. We want to add all of these things back into our soil. And composting is a great way to do that. There's so many different types of ways to compost. Some are very labor intensive. Some can be done, with hardly any labor at all. And I want to go through a few different, techniques that we use here at Wise Living Yoga Academy. And maybe they'll give you a better idea of composting and what you can do at home to improve your soil quality and ultimately improve your yields.
So this is what the soil looks like here at Wise Living Academy. And so we have to do some manual labor, put some energy into the composting to speed it up, just so we can add nutrients for the plants that are already here. We have 3 stages of compost going. This one has just been finished, and then here we have one that's 2 weeks into watering and turning. It's the dry season, so we have to water it to make sure that it's moist enough for the microorganisms and all of the activity to take place. Then here's about a month in. You can see it's starting to turn dark brown and it's just really rich. We also do long-term composting beds here. So we have time and we have space. Why not put all these materials out and just let them decompose on their own? It's a lot less effort, and we can come back a year later and have wonderful compost already in line in a bed ready to plant. Just add a little bit of mulch to the top of it and some plants. We make sure and use all of our available resources. That's a part of the whole permaculture process. So having so many wonderful vegan meals here, we have food scraps galore. We have leaves from, cleaning up inside the compound, sweeping and raking and everything. So that's what we make our compost with. There's also some grass clippings from the neighbors and other things like that when we trim the field, but for the most part, it's food scraps and leaves. I just pile food scraps and then spread them out a little bit, add some leaves to the top of it, and just keep the process going. The next day, more food scraps, more leaves. The next day, more food scraps, more leaves, until a pile is big enough to just leave it. We have to remember that in gardening and in permaculture, we're working with the earth. So we have to pay attention to the things that are going on around us, the climate, the temperature, the rainy seasons, the dry seasons, and we have to adapt what we're doing to that. So nothing that I can tell you can be, complete and strict knowledge of, this is how it's done. You really have to just see what works best for you and try things out and have a notebook and take notes to see what works best. These we can leave uncovered. If it's raining, then it gets plenty of water. Maybe you have to cover it so that there's not too much moisture in it. It'll start to smell. Maybe it's close to your house, or maybe you need to cover it to hold the moisture in. Here, since it's so dry during the dry season, if I don't cover this compost, it's not going to have any moisture at all. It's going to take very long time to decompose. As it is now, you can see there's mold growing on the leaves, and it has an earthy smell. You can tell that it's breaking down, but it's not like that sludgy, nasty smell that some people have with their compost. That's because they don't have enough dry materials, brown materials, things carbon based like leaves and wood and stuff like that. And then here you see the compost, once it's more broken down, it gets that rich dark brown color, and this can be sifted out and used already, and you can even use it with the leaves and twigs. It just depends on what you're doing. It wouldn't be good for potting soil, but it'll be great to just spread around the trees that you already have, and it will continue to decompose on its own. And then just look at that brown compared to what the earth has right now, being exposed to the sun, not enough organic matter. Composting can really make or break your garden. So here, like I said, we take our food scraps, we take our leaves, we pile them in layers, and once that pile gets to a certain size, I start to turn it every few days and water it. But that's because we need compost like ASAP here. So the more labor that I put into it, the quicker the compost is going to come out. There's a few questions you should ask yourself when making your compost, and that's: how much time do you have? How much labor are you willing to put into it? What kind of resources? Where are you going to do it? That's a really big question. Some people put a barrel right next to their house and then it starts to stink because it's almost completely food scraps, or it attracts animals, it attracts insects, other things like that. You might want to put your compost closer to the garden. It might not look nice next to the garden, but if it's right there when it's ready to use, you don't have to spend time moving it all the way across your yard or all the way across your garden. You might want to make piles if you have a large bit of land. I make these compost piles in different areas around the garden. That way, when they're ready, I can just simply put the compost straight onto the garden bed. Or if I want to have a new garden bed, I make the compost, then I just flatten it out a little bit, spread it out a little bit, and plant directly into it. These are all good ways of saving time and saving labor. So in permaculture, we want to see everything as a potential resource and all of our problems as possible solutions to other things. So all of the food scraps, but then what other resources do you have? Do you have grass clippings? Do you have branches? Do you have seasonal vegetables that you pull out of the garden bed when their time is done? All of these things can potentially be compost. If you have a wood chipper, you can chip up larger branches and things like that, and they will decompose faster. Or you can just make a big long-term compost pile for later on. If you have the space, you just pile all these branches in some back area where you're not really concerned with how it looks, and eventually they will decompose. All organic matter will eventually decompose. So these are all different things to contemplate when you are starting your compost pile.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. So really, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to composting and all the different techniques that we can use. I hope to do some more videos in the future about it. I'm also working on videos for making biochar, permanent garden beds, raised garden beds, and replanting bananas, planting pineapples, all kinds of other informative videos. So if you guys want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, feel free. Also, if you want to put any comments or any questions that you have, I'll try and get back to as many of them as possible. Check me out at sustainableintentions.com, and also check out Wise Living Yoga Academy if you're interested in further knowledge on permaculture or for yoga teacher trainings and retreats. Alright, see you guys soon.